The ninth night, the next night, while Scheherazade was in bed, her sister Dinarzade said, "Please, sister, tell us one of your pleasant stories." The king added, "Let that be the end of the porter's story. You are welcome." Scheherazade replied, "I have heard, O happy king, that the porter stood with the basket, and the door opened. The porter glanced to see who had opened the door and saw another beautiful woman with a forehead as broad as the newborn moon and teeth as white as a row of pearls. When the porter saw her, he exclaimed, 'This is the most blessed day I have ever seen.' Then the woman who had opened the door said to the one who had shopped, 'Sister, what are you waiting for? Come in and let this poor man unload his basket.' The shopper and the porter entered the house, and I followed them from the door. I opened the door into a large hall. In the middle of it was a water basin with a fountain in the middle and a red silk curtain at the end. The curtain was opened, and behind it appeared another dazzling woman, her face brighter than the sun. She walked over and said, 'Why are you standing like that?' 'To lighten the load on this poor man.' The three sisters helped the porter lower and empty the basket. They piled everything up in neat piles, and the porter gave me a tip. When the porter saw how beautiful and charming these women were, and the many goods they had piled around them, he didn't want to leave. One of them asked him, 'Why didn't you go? Is the tip too little?' Then she turned to her sister and said, 'Give him more money.' The porter replied, 'My God, the money is not small, but I noticed that there is no one here to entertain you. A table needs 4 legs, and you are 3, and you certainly need a 4th person with you.' When they heard what he said, they replied, 'You are welcome to join us.' Then the 3 sisters brought out all kinds of food and drink beside the water basin. The porter thought he was dreaming. The porter and the women ate, drank, and sang, and then ate, drank, and sang some more. The porter was filled with joy, and he began to dance and joke, while the 3 sisters danced and joked with him. They spent many hours like this, eating, singing, and having fun. At that moment, Scheherazade realized it was morning and stopped talking. Dinarzade said to her sister, 'Sister, what a strange and amazing story.' Scheherazade replied, 'This is nothing compared to what I will tell you tomorrow, if I live.' The 10th night, the next night, while Scheherazade was in bed, her sister Dinarzade said, 'Please, sister, tell us more of your amusing stories.' The king added, 'Let the rest be the porter's story.' Scheherazade replied, 'You are welcome.' When night fell, the 3 sisters said to the porter, 'Sir, it is time for you to rise. Put on your shoes and go.' The porter replied, 'It is easier for me to have my soul leave my body than to part with you. Let us continue as we are, and then part in the morning.' 'My sister, let him stay, and let us continue our pleasure,' said the shopkeeper. The sisters agreed, but said, 'Sir, you must agree to one thing. Get up and go see what is written on the front door of our house.' The porter got up and went to the door, where he found these words in golden letters, 'Whoever interferes in the affairs of others will be severely punished.' The porter returned and said, 'I promise not to ask about anything that is not my business.' After that, they lit the lamps and spent a long time laughing, joking, and enjoying themselves. Suddenly, they heard a knock at the door. One of the women got up and went to the door. After a while, she returned, saying, 'My sister, if you listen to me, you will have a pleasant evening that you will always remember.' They asked her, 'How so?' She replied, 3 one-eyed dervishes are standing at the door, each with his head and beard shaved. The 3 clerics have just arrived in Baghdad and have never seen our great city before. Since they were strangers and there was nowhere for them to go, they knocked on our door, hoping we would let them sleep in the stable or offer them a room for the night. Sister, would you let them in so we can have a good time?' The 2 sisters agreed. 'Let them in, but warn them that anyone who interferes in someone else's business will be severely punished.' The shopper left and returned with the 3 dervishes, who greeted them and bowed. The other 2 sisters stood to greet them, all delighted with the visit. When the dervishes saw the beautiful hall filled with food and drink, and the 3 beautiful sisters, they all said at once, 'Oh, this is wonderful.' The ladies laughed and sat down with the porter and the dervishes. They ate and drank until the porter said to the dervishes, 'Friends, would you like to entertain us with something?' At that moment, Scheherazade realized it was morning and stopped speaking. Dinarzade said to her sister, What a strange and beautiful story, my sister. Scheherazade replied, that is nothing compared to what I will tell you tomorrow. The 11th night. The next night, while Scheherazade was in bed, her sister Dinarzade said, please, sister, tell us more of these amusing stories. The king added, tell us what happened to the dervishes. You are welcome. Scheherazade replied, I have heard, O king, that the 3 dervishes asked for musical instruments, and that the doorkeeper brought a flute, a harp, and a lyre. The dervishes rose, took the instruments, tuned them, and began to play and sing, while the ladies around them sang, until their voices became exceedingly loud. I brought them a tambourine. The caliph said, Jafar, I would like to enter this house and visit those inside. Jafar replied, O commander of the faithful, these people do not know who we are, and I fear they will not welcome us. The caliph said, do not argue. I will enter the house. Jafar knocked on the door, and when the woman opened it, the vizier stepped forward and kissed the ground before her, saying, My lady, we are 2 poor merchants who passed by your door. We heard the sounds of music and commotion. We beg you to allow us to enter and give us a place to stay tonight. The woman took pity on them and let them in. When the 2 men entered the hall, everyone, the sisters, the dervishes, and the porter rose to greet them and then sat down. At this point, Scheherazade realized it was morning and stopped speaking. Dinarzade said to her sister, What a strange and interesting story. Scheherazade replied, This is nothing compared to what I will tell you tomorrow if I live. The 12th night. The next night, while Scheherazade was in bed, her sister Dinarzade said, Please, tell us another wonderful tale. The king added, Let it be the rest of the story of the 3 sisters. Scheherazade replied, You are welcome. I have heard, O king, that after the caliph and Jafar entered and sat down, the ladies turned around and said, We are pleased to have you as our guests, but you must understand one thing. They asked, What is this matter? The ladies replied, He who meddles in the affairs of others shall suffer great punishment. The 2 men replied, As you wish. We do not want to intrude. Satisfied with this answer, the sisters sat down to entertain them. Everyone ate and drank, and the singing, dancing, and excitement grew. The caliph was amazed by the sight of the 1-eyed dervishes and their excellent playing of the flute, tambourine, and lyre. He was also amazed by the sight of the 3 sisters and their beauty, charm, grace, and kindness. Later that night, after much drinking, talking, and singing, the sisters rose from their seats. The doorkeeper cleared the table and cleared the middle of the hall, placing the dervishes at one table and the caliph and Jafar at another. The shopkeeper then brought out 2 black dogs and led them into the middle of the hall. The sisters began to dance as everyone watched in amazement. The dogs were untied so the sisters could dance with them. They twirled until one of the dogs lost its strength and collapsed from exhaustion. One of the sisters leaned over and kissed him on the forehead. They danced again, twirling wildly until the other dog lost consciousness. The caliph wanted to know more about what he had witnessed, but Jafar stopped him, saying, This is not the time to ask questions. The 2 black dogs were sent away again. When the dancing was over, O happy king, the sisters returned and moved to the couches with their guests. The lamps were still lit, and there was still food and drink, but the men were amazed and liberated by what they were witnessing. At this point, Scheherazade realized it was morning and stopped talking. Dinarzade said to her sister, What an amazing and enjoyable story. Scheherazade replied, That is nothing compared to what I will tell you tomorrow, if I live.